The day we've been waiting for, all the way since CES that happened in Las Vegas in January. The 5080 is here, and this is the Vanguard edition from MSI. We also have its older brother, the 4080 in studio. So in this video, we'll directly compare the raw performance of these two cards, the 5080 versus the 4080. I want to know what these are capable of without AI first. And then I'll show you a little bit of the cool stuff that they did behind the scenes with AI. Let's dive into the unboxing first. Whoa. Holy shit. That's dope. First off, the box inside of the box is incredible. Just have a look at this. The design they went with is really modern and futuristic, and the experience is definitely everything. So inside of every box, you get a special collectible edition of the Lucky. How cute is that? So there's multiple different ones. You can see them right there. I also recorded them at CES. You can see them right here. Very cool, very cute. I don't really know how they can call them collectibles though. You'd have to be a pretty hardcore collector to buy 10 graphics cards to get 10 of these. But let's just leave that there. This is quite cute. Unboxing of this, absolutely. Give me a few minutes. First we look at what's actually important. Did I just say that the Lucky isn't important? It is important. However, I'm trying to get to the big bad beast. Little card inside. To celebrate the launch of the Vanguard series, we are thrilled to introduce a limited edition blind box Lucky figure. Lucky Around the World series. Marketing much? We invite players to join in the fun and collect them all. Let's explore, create, and enjoy new gaming adventures together. Ugh, MSI. This is so cute. Oh, it's reflectable. Oh, that's nice. Moving on. Inside the box, we have our 16-pin power cable. Nice. And some plastic. Oops. We have our GPU support. I can see something that you want to see. Very nice. Hold on tight. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Carbon fiber me now. Here it is in all of its glory. It's incredibly beautiful to be got. May I add, I do not know whether this is real carbon fiber, but it looks like it's embedded on the plastic and part of the plastic. The backplate, however, is very beautiful. Look at that steel brushed look. The glossy dragon, the carbon fiber with the fins coming through, and the edges that curve around. Yes. 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 But you and I know that the showstopper of the 5080 is what you have right here. The front shroud, where our beautiful three fans house themselves. It's definitely a chunky boy. Now, whether it's a 3-slot, 4-slot, 5-slot, 4, everybody dance on the floor. Just kidding, that's a terrible joke. It's definitely a 4-slot. 3.5. Chunky boy. I apologize for my joke. A moment of silence for the We Do Tech channel. And now for a commercial break. Little disclaimer, MSI actually did sponsor us to go to CES in Las Vegas, all the way here from South Africa, to go and experience all of their tech. That's also why we're one of the first people to get a hands-on experience with the 5080, which is awesome. However, let me just be very honest and very clear. This video is absolutely not a sponsored video for this card. I'm ripping this thing apart in the next section of this video. And by ripping this thing apart, I mean ripping it apart. Bring me the screwdrivers. Come on, we're gonna open this thing up. I need to show. I'm just kidding. I was told very clearly by MSI, you shall not dismantle the review unit. So I'll respect that for now. Oh look, it's a brand new set. Okay. Now, while looks are undoubtedly important, we here at We Do Tech care about what's on the inside. That's what really matters. So what is in the inside of the new 5080 compared to the 4080? Well, we've been given an extra 1024 CUDA cores, which for those of you who don't know is technical mumbo jumbo for the things in charge of handling multiple scenario tasks at the same time, which is very important for things like rendering more frames. The more CUDA cores you have, the more frames or pixels you can render, leading to a more smoother gameplay experience. You know, the more Fs per S you get. That's frames per second. Now with the 5080, we get 10,752 CUDA cores. I think it's safe to say that it can definitely get quite a bit done. But how much can it get done? The 5080, like the 4080, is unfortunately still equipped with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is something that we here at WeDoTech are not really ecstatic about, and also the rest of the internet. They're also not really liking this whole sticking to the 16 gigabyte RAM thing. Now yes, we do get GDDR7 memory, which clocks at 30 gigabits per second, but the point still stands. While 16 gigabytes of VRAM is more than enough for most modern games, I do agree with most people that something like an 18 or a 20 gigabytes of VRAM would have made this card just a little bit more future-proof. But why would they do that? Why would the consumerism pushers want us to keep our cards for longer than a year? No. You have to replace your phone every year. You have to buy a new card every year. Why would you keep it for longer than that? It's because we don't have the money. Okay? It's expensive. Now, yes, if you are a proud 4090 owner, you are feeling like I'm feeling. The rumors of the 5070 beating its ass is definitely putting a little bit of nervousness in my bum. But besides for that, I do agree. Why 16 gigabytes of? I digress. So, I just want to summarize that if we had more VRAM, we would be able to do more non-gaming tasks better for a longer period of time. Not all of us game all the time, you know. Some of us have real jobs. Unlike the streamers, which I'll get to soon, by the way. Streamers beware. The 5080 also brings a boost in clock speed, which the base clock goes up to 2.3 gigahertz. The max goes up to 2.62 gigahertz on the reference card. Although the Vanguard over here from MSI has been tweaked. It goes up to 2.74 gigahertz per second. Obviously using the extreme performance mode, which we tested. By the way, the different modes and the speeds and the heat that the card produces, FPS that it brings, and a whole bunch of other things to look forward to in this video. Now, ad break again? What? Is that Ryan Reynolds? No, it's not Ryan Reynolds. We sponsor our own show over here, so we make the rules, and we can make stupid jokes like that. And now for our sponsor, Be Active. If you're looking to lose weight in the new year, if you're trying to get in the best shape ever, remember, besides for reviewing tech, I actually help people lose weight. That's no joke. I actually really do that for a living. Half of all of the income I generate to be able to do all of these things come from me helping people lose weight. I have my degree in biokinetics. People get great results. It's nice food. It's an active program, especially for gamers like yourself or tech enthusiasts. Perhaps 2025 will be your year to 2020 thrive. That's on a very serious note though. Please do reach out if you need help. Anyways, now with the Blackwell chipset, we've also got an upgrade in the tensor and the ray tracing cores, which seems to make quite the difference when it comes to ray tracing, but a little bit more on that later. Actually, a lot more on that later. That's where it gets kind of interesting. First, we need to take a look at what makes the Vanguard from MSI special. MSI has put quite a bit of effort into the design of this specific card, especially when it comes to the cooling. Tweaking everything from the thickness of the vapor chamber to the design of the heat pipes and the fin shape to carry as much heat off of this card as possible. Obviously without them having to switch us over to water cooling. Now this new cooling combined with these slightly boosted clock speeds and just overall design really makes this one of my favorite 50 series designs I've seen so far. And I actually saw basically all of them. We went to CES over in Las Vegas, which MSI sent us to go and view, and then we also snuck around into, I digress. We snuck around and saw all of the series, and I must say, the carbon fiber design, the cooling design, the extra clock speeds, and the fact that we get a cool collectible, kind dope. Now we had to put the cooling to the test, obviously. So we ran some Firmark in 4K for around 10 minutes, giving the card enough time to normalize its temperatures on both the gaming BIOS and the quiet BIOS that comes built into this card, by the way. It's a little switch. And I've got to say, the temps are pretty good, maxing out at 70 degrees on the hotspot after 10 minutes at 100%. That's pretty impressive. Switching it over to the quiet BIOS, slightly dropping obviously the clock speeds, the performance you're getting out of it, we still only got a max of 71 degrees. And the performance output, well, that's where it gets interesting. You see, we know that there is an upgrade compared to the last gen 4080, which I have right here in my hands. But what is the gain? I've been teasing it for so long. Stefan, get to the point of this video, please. Oh, my dear friends, you haven't even subscribed yet. We're so close to 100,000 subscribers. Make it happen for this boy from South Africa with a dream. It's been a long fight for this channel, for you guys, to show you that you don't have to waste your money on nonsense tech. We'll do it for you. We'll be comparing the two cards in a few games, specifically Black Myth Wukong, Cyberpunk, and the new Indiana Jones. We will be doing some real-world tests with these as well. Now, I'm not saying we're going to take them out to be like blackmailed and emotionally manipulated and beaten. We're going to do Premiere Pro render tests on them. That's what we're going to be doing. As for how I'm going to be handling the testing, we're mostly going to be focusing on raw performance for two main reasons. Firstly, I did get this card before the official launch, so most of the games aren't updated yet with DLSS 4, which makes this card shine. It's not really optimized for the drivers we have right now. Secondly, most importantly, in my opinion, DLSS doesn't help when it comes to editing. So whether we have updated DLSS programs or not, it doesn't matter because I'm interested in using this card without DLSS. And so are you, because you and I, we do not like AI and software. No. We want it raw. Why did I say it like that? Now, I think it's important for us to start with the actual raw benchmarks. So here they are. This is what we saw. First, let's look at graphs, showing the raw performance without any ray tracing enabled. In 4K, there really isn't much of a difference across the board. Between the two cards, we saw an average of a 15% increase in raw performance. Between the two cards, I think this is little. It's not a lot. Now, luckily, when we dropped it down to 1440p, it was better. Much better. Giving us an average increase of 40% across the graphic settings. Yeah, all of them. Isn't that quite impressive? I thought so too. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting though. We brought ray tracing into the picture. Thanks to those 4th gen ray tracing cores, the faster memory speeds, and extra tensor cores, the 5080 dominates a lot. It handles ray tracing way better. If we look at 4K, very high preset for example, the 4080 dropped a total of 21 frames, going from 38 to 17. While the 5080 on the same preset only dropped 6 frames, going from 44 to 38 frames per second. And this is a trend we saw across the board with the 5080, being on average 78% better than the older 4080 in 4K ray-traced benchmarks, 68% better on 1440p. Those are big numbers, but yet it's only really the case on ray tracing, not raw performance. Raw performance, we saw max settings on Wukong, 14 frames on the 4080 and 16 frames on the 5080. Yikes, my dude. Indiana Jones, like there isn't a built-in benchmark test that we could do. However, we walked the same path in the game, compared the frame rates, which I think should give us an idea of what's going on. And the results without ray tracing enabled are interesting. Compared to Black Myth Wukong, we saw a similar 12% increase in the 4K rasterization, although 1440p was a different story in Indiana Jones compared to Black Myth. You see, in Black Myth we got a massive increase when we went to 1440p. However, we only went from 14% to 16% in Indiana Jones. Although when we look at ray tracing performance, we again see the same drastic jump as we saw with Black Myth Wukong, with an average of 58% average jump in frame rates in 4K, and 44% jump in 1440p when ray tracing is added to this equation. The last game we looked at was Cyberpunk, and the numbers were the closest yet. In raw rasterized performance at 4K, there was a 17% increase in performance, with 1440p only giving us 17 frames per second bump, which is really disappointing. Neither card handled the path tracing well either. The 5080 did handle it slightly better than the 4080, giving us 4 more frames in 4K and 6 more frames in 1440p. Not very impressive at all. But that's exactly why they demoed Cyberpunk all the time, with DLSS 4. But more on that in a second. Looking at our numbers, we can see that this card's main improvement is how much better it handles ray tracing and AI tasks compared to the previous 4080 or the previous generation of cards in general. And that makes sense in this new generation. That's what they're aiming at. It's AI, it's software. How far can they really push the architecture of these cards? If we look back at the launch presentation, it suddenly starts to make sense. All of the graphs from NVIDIA all showed their games either having ray tracing or DLSS enabled. None are just raw performance, and I'm guessing their engineers just went, "Hey boss, we ain't got no more stuff to do with this." And then the boss was like, "Have you heard of those AI people? Yeah, we make a lot of money from them. Let's learn something there." And then they brought AI, which is actually usable. So considering all of that, I do want to touch on DLSS. We cannot ignore it. Honestly, this whole new generation of cards is built upon it. So we tested DLSS 4 in Cyberpunk just to get an idea of the claims of this massive performance boost. And yes, while it did add latency, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say that this card on DLSS 4 feels like it just magically has impressive frames, but it literally jumped 100 frames per second in Cyberpunk's ray tracing overdrive preset with path tracing enabled, going from 19 frames per second, which is basically unplayable, to 119 frames per second in 4K. Yes, it added latency, but it also added 100 frames per second. That's something to think about. Now, lastly, for us content creators and animators and designers, they didn't forget about us. They've added 2 9th generation encoders and 2 6th generation decoders to help with exporting and streaming performance. You know, for all of my streamers out there. I'm just kidding, I don't know why I did that. So to test that, we also took a look at something else, which is our real world scenario of the use of this card. We took one of our latest videos and we exported it on both of these cards, trying to compare how much faster the one would be taking care of this job for me than the other. Now, it took 11 minutes and 38 seconds to render the video on 5080, which was a total of 48 seconds faster than the 4080. Wow. Now, it doesn't sound that much, but it is a 5% improvement. And you can imagine if you render 100 videos times 5% improvement, you save days per month. But that's only if you render 100 videos. And how many of us will render 100 videos? That's my point. The increase in performance between the two cards might not be worth upgrading. And that's the next point of this video. Should you be buying the 5080? My personal opinion, if you're coming from something like a 20 series or a 30 series card, absolutely. The improvement on this card's cooling abilities alone will have you drooling over it. The performance increases you'll be getting from there, out of this world. Will you be able to get a 4080 for a better price? Maybe. Something to consider. I'll leave some links below if you want to have a look at the prices I could source. However, if you're coming from a 4080, I don't think it's going to be worth it. We'll give it a little bit more time for all of the games to optimize with DLSS and for them to get their shit together. However, I do not think it's worth upgrading from that 4080. Now, if you are convinced that you're going to be getting a 5080 card, then I honestly feel, after seeing many different 5080s by now, the Vanguard from MSI is special enough to pick up. The carbon fiber design, the extra effort they put into the cooling, the bit they squeezed out of the performance of the card makes it worth it. That is my personal opinion. I love this card. I'd love to put it in my PC case. Unfortunately, this has to go to another reviewer next. But I want to also touch on this little lucky in here, the collectible. Now, I want to say thank you very much if you watched this video to the end. I commend you for that. And if you'd like to subscribe, that would be awesome. Now, this little lucky right here only comes with the launch edition of the Vanguard series from MSI. I know I made fun of it earlier saying you'd have to be some serious collector to try and collect all of these, having to buy like 10 cards. But the fact of the matter is MSI really did something extra for us here. And I think it's really cool. So I'm going to open this now and I'd say goodbye for those of you who don't care. And those of you who are staying, thanks a lot. Oh. It's the astronaut? What the hell? They bamboozled us! What the? Oh, that's cool. Nice! There's a lucky Easter egg in this video. Let's go. Okay, now you have to subscribe. We're almost at 100K. Why aren't you subscribing? But I'm keeping this. I'm not sending this to the next review. No ways, this is mine. And the quality, my dude, look at that. Oh, that's nice.